else?
Nope.
Get to my guest here. It is from San Diego, California. I just wanted to say that. Jill Arnold is here, along with Bianca Wooden and friends of Midwives. And good morning, ladies. How are you both?
Great.
It's good to have you. Thank you so very much. Bianca, once again, because we did this last year.
Yep.
It is before the legislature again. And to explain what the bill is and the bill number, it's in the House.
Yep. Last year it was in the House. This is the Licensed Midwife Practice Act, House Bill 323, Senate Bill 2335. And basically what this bill does is right now anyone can call themselves a midwife in Mississippi. They don't have to have any training or skills. So this bill just sets up licensing for midwives. It requires that they become certified professional midwives, which is a nationally recognized credential in order to practice midwifery in the state of Mississippi.
So you cannot practice now, or you can?
You can.
Anyone can do it now on your own.
Yes, you could be a midwife now.
I could be a midwife.
Yes.
Jill, how many midwives are there in the? Because you're part of a national organization or advocacy group.
No, I'm actually not with the Mississippi Friends of Midwives. So.
No, I'm talking about you're with the Cesarean.
Well, that's my own site, cesareanreach.com.
That's your own site. I
Yes.
want to talk about that in a moment or two. But how many in the state of Mississippi practice this, Bianca?
Mississippi probably has about a dozen midwives that practice in Mississippi. A lot of them come from neighboring states, which our neighboring states have licensing already. So Louisiana, Tennessee, Arkansas, the licensed midwives often practice here.
What does the license do other than make sure some of the people who are not practicing, it sets standards, or it maybe protects you through some liability? What does it do?
It does a few things. When you hire a midwife right now as just a pregnant mom, like I did, I'm not a midwife, I'm just a mom. So when I went out and hired a midwife,
You look at the yellow pages or on the website?
Well, actually, since there's a high demand for midwives, so they don't even advertise. They're kind of hard to find because they have so many clients. But I needed to verify her training on my own, which is nearly impossible, or know that she has the right skills. So when you set up licensing, that's a way for the consumers to know, okay, this person's been checked out. She has her training. She knows how to do infant CPR. She knows the basics. She knows how to handle an emergency. And she's been tested for these things.
Is she licensed and bonded, or does she have any type of security at all with her, or just her resume?
Right now, just her resume. I mean, you can ask a midwife, and they vary greatly. We have some really great midwives in Mississippi. We have some that aren't so great.
Do you have to work with a hospital on this, or a doctor signed on with this? Does a doctor sign on?
No. Is how midwives work is they're just individual practitioners. So a lot of times if a doctor is needed, then a midwife will transfer care to a doctor. Midwives have a very small scope of practice. They only deal with the healthiest pregnancies where everything is going perfectly.
Any medical training at all?
Well, if they have their CPM credential, certified professional midwife, which would be required with this law, then they do have some training. They work under a senior midwife for many births. They go away to training. They take a test to test their skills and their knowledge. So with this, they would.
All right, explain to me, and this comes up again, it has for the last few years. Explain to me who would be a good candidate and why I would want to do this, especially if you've got insurance. But even with insurance, you're going to be left, I don't know what the average is, but chances are it's going to be several $1,000s after that you have to pay. What's the cost of midwife?
To hire a midwife is several $1,000s for all the prenatal care. It's covered by insurance in Mississippi oftentimes. It was for me. She was just an out-of-network provider.
Blue Cross covered that?
I think it was Aetna.
Really?
Yeah. I think maybe it was Blue Cross.
Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't realize the insurance covers that.
My midwife was an out-of-network provider. Now, she is a certified professional midwife.
Okay, how soon does she get involved in this, in the pregnancy?
Just like a doctor early on in the first trimester, and she does all the prenatal care. And I had collaborative care. I also went and saw a doctor a couple of times, too.
Somewhere along the line, whether in the final few months there, certainly in the final few weeks, if a problem is detected, she bows out?
Yep. She says you have a high risk of something happening, and she just hands over care to a doctor.
What's the reason that the legislature does not want to do this?
I'm not sure. Honestly.
Come on. You got to know. Is it the hospitals don't want it? They're losing money?
It's the medical association, physicians. They've nationally taken a stand against home birth completely. Now, in Mississippi, all the legislators agree. People give birth at home. They need to be protected. They shouldn't be left out in the dark while all other health professionals are licensed.
And I think I mentioned this the last time you were on. My grandmother was a midwife who had come from Italy as a young person, 16 years old, and she was recognized as one of the midwives in the Italian community. So, and it's written in our history book. So that's
cool. And in Mississippi, we do have a tradition of midwifery. A lot of legislators were born at home.
Why is it midwifery?
I don't know. Should we say midwifery?
Well, I mean, the brain wants to say that, but I understand it is grammatically correct.
It does take some getting used to when you haven't said it before.
Let me talk to Jill. Jill, you're here from California. Cesarean ratings. What's that?
Cesareanrates.com.
Rates.com.
Yes, the cesarean rates are the percentage of C-sections that are performed by a hospital, or you can look at it at the national level. The national rate is 32.8%. And this is the first year it dropped by about 0.1%, but it was rising steadily for 12 years. And rates in Mississippi are very high, which is why
Why is that?
Why are they high in Mississippi?
Is it easier? Is it more conducive to a better balance line for the physicians or the hospitals to do this? But
there really is no easy answer, and I'm not trying to duck out of it. It's definitely multifactorial. I mean, there's always the element of if you can get the work done. Because the reimbursement to the physician is about the same. But if you can get the work done in half an hour, do you know?
Well, this has I hate to say this, but this is assembly line mentality. Yeah. Bring her in, let's pull it out, let's get it out of here. I can do another one this afternoon. But if I sit around and wait for the contractions, I don't know when I'm coming home. That's what it sounds like.
From
you're saying.
Your lips to God's ears, Paul.
Oh.
Yeah, that's.
It sounds like you've been at a few births.
What's the rate again? How many cesareans?
Well, here in Mississippi, it's almost 38%.
38%.
Now, the shocking numbers here. And if you want to hear about in the Jackson area, Women's Hospital at River Oaks is 59%. 59% of women walk out of Women's Hospital with a C-section.
What is it nationwide?
32.8.
So 32, we're 38.
38.
What was it 10 years ago?
Ooh.
5 years ago.
It's risen steadily.
Give me this. It is increasing then.
Oh yeah, no, it's risen significantly. There was a dip. It peaked at about 26% in the mid 80s, and then dropped in the early 90s.
Your advocacy group is to decrease that, or just to realize why we're doing it? And do we need it?
Well, there is evidence that anything above a 15 to 20% C-section rate, the benefits do not, at that point, outweigh the risk. But what I'm doing with cesareanrates.com is I'm advocating for transparency of information. And so what I've taken is not the best rates that are, that exist, the best reporting, but I've shown exactly what is available to the public at the moment. So it ties in a lot with what, Mississippi Friends of Midwives are doing in terms of accountability of institutions, accountability of providers, letting consumers know, and introducing consumers. It introduces a new element of, consumer choice and decision making. And
when a woman is pregnant, like when I was pregnant, I started doing research, and I called some physicians' offices, and I asked, what is your cesarean section rate? How do you have people that give birth naturally without Pitocin or being induced? And flatly, several different offices told me, we don't give that information out. So this site and things like that empowers the consumer to make those decisions. And that's what pushes people sometimes to a home birth.
I understand what you're talking about. The ultimate goal is if you want a natural birth, you don't know that, though? Wouldn't you know that before you go into the hospital, that you're going to have it either by cesarean section or natural delivery? Unless there's complications and then you take it from cesarean, most of the time you know that.
No.
You don't?
I would say few people know when they go into the hospital. A lot of times women...
I'm learning things here. I thought when you knew you're going in, you've got contractions, you're waiting, you're coming in, and you know you're going to have a natural delivery. Isn't it to the point where you don't have a cesarean unless there is possibility of complications, the baby is rather large or in a unusual position. You're saying just now for convenience.
What you're saying is true. It's just who makes that judgment call and how are they making that call and what is in the back of the doctor's mind when they're making that decision that, yes, this is risky or it's not. So a lot of women now have Pitocin. There's real high rate. I don't know if you know what that is, but it augments labor. It makes the contraction stronger. But it has drawbacks, too, that it can put the baby in a precarious situation where they're not getting enough oxygen. But like one thing leads to another, and before you know it, there's a cesarean.
All of a sudden, you've got a cesarean. But, Jill, I would imagine, too, you're going to listen to your physician. If the physician comes in at the last moment and says, we really need to take the baby, you're not going to sit there and argue.
Not in labor.
No.
Now, I had a unique experience, though, and how I got started on all of this was I was told I needed a C-section at 38 weeks pregnant because my baby was too big, and I asked for more information. And I guess, doctors really aren't that used to being questioned, and maybe it's different out in California, I don't know, but I didn't get the answers I wanted. I got these extreme scenarios. I got these, these worst case scary stories. And so I went back and did my own research. And I showed up in labor and refused a C-section. And that's not an easy thing to do. They make it pretty hard on you.
Get her out of here. Get her out of here.
She is a troublemaker.
Yeah, get her out of here. Get this baby delivered. Get her out of here.
Yeah.
It is interesting. The bill number again in the House is what, Bianca?
In the House, 323, and in the Senate, 2335.
And is it the same thing that was last year as far as the language in the bill?
Yeah, it's very similar. We, based on the discussions we had last year, we made a couple little changes, but it's basically the same thing.
What were the changes and what were the discussions?
The discussions were, what do we do with midwives who don't have this credential? We don't want to pass a law and then all of a sudden we lose our midwives because they don't have the credential. So in there, we just include a little bit of time for the midwives to get up to speed and get this credential.
They got to have class and certification. How do they become certified?
Yep, they a lot of midwives have enough experience already because we've been unlicensed that they just need to go take the test. So we give them a little bit of leeway to get that done.
If you have a lady who is on Oak Street, she's been there forever. She's done this 1,000 times. She says, "The heck with you. My friend needs it, and I'm going to go deliver it like we've always done it for ages." Is she going to be visited by the police and locked up? What are the consequences in here if you don't get certified?
The consequences would be practicing midwifery without a license, and we call for a $500 fine. So they won't go to prison, but we definitely want to discourage it and encourage her to get her license, which, since she's been doing it forever, she has the skills and knowledge. She just needs to go take the test and do the paperwork to make it happen.
What's the rate out there as far as where complications ensue, and maybe you guys have been sued or somebody's been sued?
No, nobody has been sued in Mississippi. And actually, I'd like to bring up that when midwives transfer care to a doctor, no doctor has ever been held liable for the actions of a midwife. Complications come up rarely. Do you know, is it?
A lot of people use the 1% as far as true obstetric emergencies, but as far as needing a C-section, it's usually somewhere in the 15 to 20% range.
I got you. Okay, guys. Well, it's going to be a long road to hoe again this year, as you well know. It's going to be a tough one, but at least you got the word out there again.
Yes, thank you.
And if that doesn't work, we'll see you again next year.
I don't know. I'm tired.
Okay. And you head back to California when?
I'm heading back on Saturday, so I'm going to be eating my way across the South.
I was going to say, have you had the catfish yet?
Not the catfish. I've had some fried green tomatoes, though.
Pecan pie?
No. Are you offering some?
No, I'm on a diet, so
I
can't do that. We got this obesity thing in Mississippi.
I have heard about the public health concerns here, Paul.
Last thing we need to do is be too fat to have an operation.
More for me.
Okay, we got a clear stacks 1, 2, and 3. Do all that. Coming up next.